ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे हरे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. I seek all your blessings, dear devotees, for uh, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you so much for being here. Um, Before I start talking, I want to acknowledge Hemarupa Chaitanya Prabhu and Damodar Prabhu, both of whose talks I heard multiple times, and whatever little I could gather from it is what I'm going to share with you today. I This is a long chapter. This is 61 verses. I think it's very difficult to do justice to this chapter in an hour, but let's give it a good shot, and I hope I can be of some service to all of you. I'll start sharing my screen again. Second. Share. So, before I start, I also want to seek your forgiveness because I've not been that regular with the Sangha. I actually missed even last week's talk by Sankirtan Prabhu, but I did catch up on the recording. He did such a good job on Shiva Tattva. So today we are, I was looking for a name. I just called it Mistakes, Punishment, Forgiveness, and Elevation Lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam for Chapter 7, which is the chapter that we are going to go through today. Um, uh, I'm hoping you can all see my screen, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, great. So the fourth canto is primarily about the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu. And we all know that it is a dialogue between Maitreya and Vidura, and that's how it is being narrated. The sage Maitreya is describing the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, the progenitor of all mankind. And then we learn about Manu's daughters, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. So this particular story focuses on Prasuti, who is married to Daksha, who is a prominent Prajapati. Now, Daksha, in chapter 2, we also learned that um, Daksha organized a grand sacrificial yajna, and Daksha deliberately excluded his son-in-law, who was Lord Shiva. So Daksha's daughter, Sati, was married to Lord Shiva, and Daksha didn't think very highly of Lord Shiva, and so that's why he just excluded him. So when Lord Shiva came to the sacrifice with Sati, Daksha publicly insulted him with harsh words, and there was some cursing and all that goes on. Lord Shiva became very morose. He became very sad, and he left the arena, but he didn't say anything. After that, Sati finds out. Sati and father is going to conduct a major sacrifice. She also sees, different residents of the heavenly planets going to the sacrifice. And she expresses her desire to Lord Shiva, saying that, "Oh, Lord Shiva, my dad's conducting this sacrifice. I really want to go." Now, Shiva, he's the epitome of detachment and knowledge. And so he counsels Sati from not going. He says we should not really go. We have not been invited, so I don't think we should go. And he warns her that ignoring his advice will not be good. But in chapter 4, Sati decides to go anyway, and she goes to the yajna conducted by her father. And there, everybody was afraid of Daksha, and nobody really received her well. Sati then explained to her father that he was being offensive to Lord Shiva and that she was ashamed of her father. And, um, and then Sati, in an act of protest and renunciation, she invoked her yogic powers and she gave up her body right there, right in the middle of the assembly. Now, in chapter 5, we saw that when Shiva heard of this Sati's immolation, self-immolation, he was overwhelmed with a lot of grief and anger. And in his anger, he created Virabhadra. He was a very fearsome being. And then he sent Virabhadra along with all his army to destroy Daksha and Daksha's sacrifice. So after that, there was complete chaos and there was destruction of the sacrifice. There was a lot of punishment, and and then finally, Daksha's head was chopped by Virabhadra, and it was put into the fire. Um, in chapter 6, which was done last week, all the Lord Brahma came. All the priests actually came to Lord Brahma to seek help to restart the sacrifice and the yajna, which had been stalled. And Lord Brahma actually takes them to appease Lord Shiva, and he takes them to Kailasha. So in this chapter, in chapter 6, there's a beautiful description of Kailasha. And Lord Shiva was sitting in the posture. Lord Shiva's posture is described as the posture of Virasana. And Lord Brahma and all the gods, they praise Lord Shiva. They tell him that he's a shareholder of the sacrifice. They request him to come back and help restart the sacrifice. So that's where we were at, and we have come to chapter 7 now. I know I just did a quick overview. So we have come to chapter 7 now. Chapter 7 is where they are talking to Lord Shiva, and so I'll quickly do a quick summary of chapter 7 so that we read 61 verses. It must have been a little bit overwhelming. It was very overwhelming for me, even though I read it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, but it was pretty overwhelming. So in chapter 7, this is, in a nutshell, what happens. Daksha is revived with a goat's head. So Lord Shiva shows mercy on him, and he gives him a goat's head. Daksha just then comes back to life, and he asks for forgiveness from Lord Shiva, and then the sacrifice resumes. And after the sacrifice resumes, Lord Vishnu appears, because Lord Vishnu is made happy during the sacrifice, and then everybody in the sacrificial in the arena, all the people, the priests, the demigods, they all offer their Daksha. They all offer their prayers, including Lord Shiva. They all offer their prayers to Lord Vishnu. And so one by one, there are a lot of verses of prayers, and each of these prayers we can delve into them in detail. I think that will take us a lot of time, but each of these prayers are very, very deep. And after all the prayers, the Lord actually gives some teachings to Daksha, and then the chapter is finally concluded by Maitreya telling Vidura again that he tells Vidura that about Sati's future birth. Sati, though she has died in this chapter, she takes birth again as the daughter of the mountains of Himalayas. So that's the overview of chapter 7. So I thought what we will do is we'll do like we'll start with a quick discussion. What do you think is was the mission of the yajna that Daksha was conducting? What do you feel was the mission? What was he trying to accomplish? What was the goal of the yajna? Anybody? I'm not able to see you because I had to. So I don't think you can. I can't see your arms if your hands are raised. But please unmute and speak up. Um,
So Gaurakumar Prabhu wrote in chat to satisfy his ego.
to hit.
To his
Okay.
Sorry?
Okay.
Yeah, so to satisfy his ego, Daksha performed the Yangya. Yeah, I guess he did it for the overall material benefit, prosperity, and everything of the people involved. Because he was a Prajapati, so he wanted himself also, he wanted prosperity, also his subjects. So that is the reason he did it, at least externally.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, that's good. So if you are aware, as you read the chapter, it becomes clear that the mission of the yajna was to satisfy the Lord and to satisfy Lord Vishnu, and and obviously, Daksha's Daksha's mind was not as pure, and so even though outwardly he was probably saying that he's doing it for Lord Vishnu, he was probably doing it to satisfy his own ego. And but while this was going on, there were some unwanted discrepancies, some fights, and some misunderstandings, and and the result of these misunderstandings was that the mission got destroyed. So the goal of the yajna got completely destroyed, and then it finally had to come back only after Lord Shiva was appeased and he could come, he brought it back. So, or when we focus on our ego, um, we tend to become more negative, and we may lose sight of the mission that we are looking to accomplish. So there is a lesson in this for our lives that our goal as devotees is to please the Lord and please our Guru, and our preaching mission is to please Krishna. And the lesson here is that we should not allow our internal differences to go to the level of the misunderstanding that happened between Shiva and Daksha. So we should always focus on the big picture and not get dragged into fights. So that's the lesson here. And Lord Brahma actually realized this. Um, Lord Brahma, realized this, and then he bringing the yajna back on track, so that we are all, the people performing the yajna, get back towards the mission. So let's do one more quick thought experiment. If Daksha were not envious, and if he had given requisite respect to Lord Shiva, what do you think would have happened? And why would it have happened that way? Just a hypothetical question.
I mean, surely Sati would not have felt what she felt. I mean, in one sense, Lord Shiva was more or less aloof from the insults per se, because he's a liberated soul, right? But then Sati got really affected by Daksha's attitude. So she gave up her body. And then because of that, then Shiva created Veerabhadra. Then Veerabhadra and his associates, they started causing havoc. So I guess all of those things would not have happened. Sati leaving and uh,
Yes.
but again, there wouldn't have been so much masala also in the past time.
Right, right, right. Anybody else? Thank you, Prabhu, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. That is, you're absolutely right. That's the yajna would have gone smoothly. You know, Shiva wouldn't have been as worried about it. Um, um, but obviously, some of these, as devotees, we are very pleased to listen to this Leela. And one of the reasons for this Leela is to remind us of the things that could happen in our lives and the way in which we could behave in certain situations. And so so the Lord you know arranges this Leela for us to learn things and to be reminded of Him when we encounter such situations. So going back to the lesson was about um was about you know s- staying with the mission and always remembering the mission. That was the lesson from this from that we learned from Lord Brahma here. So I was reminded of a story of these elephants. Now I don't know if the elephants were from Guruvayur, but I had heard the story in a discourse, and I said, where do you see elephants? You see them in Guruvayur, which is the famous Krishna temple in Kerala. So so the temple elephants, there was a husband and wife elephant. They were the premier elephants for the worship of the Lord. And one day they were nicely bathed in the river. They were nicely cleansed. There was a lot of chandan put on them, and they were on their way back to the temple to perform deity worship. The temples are involved in deity worship in Guruvayur. Sorry, the elephants are involved in deity worship in Guruvayur. And so the elephants were coming back after a nice bath and after being nicely decorated. And as they were walking back towards the temple of Guruvayur, on that same street lived a pig, and the pig had just gotten married. The pig was extremely dirty, and he had just gotten married, and he wanted to show off to his wife. So what the pig did is, he jumped into the middle of the street and he challenged the elephant. And the elephant saw the pig, and then he paused a little bit, and then he moved to the side, avoided the pig completely, and then started walking towards the temple. So the elephant's wife saw all this happening. So she asked her husband, husband elephant, you're so powerful. Why would you not take on this pig? And the pig is so small. So the husband elephant said, dear one, we are servants of the Lord, and we have a mission. We have to perform deity worship. So I cannot allow myself to get distracted by all the things that come in before me. So that was the that's kind of like that was a story that really stuck with me. Um, so that I thought I'll share that with you. So moving ahead, um, another topic that I thought I'll ask you all is, why do you think Sati immolated herself? What else could she have done? And is that the right step for her to take? And why do you think she took such a step? Anybody? Jagannath Gopal Prabhu or anybody else?
Before I answer this question, Nitya Kishori Mataji wrote on the chat for the previous question that a great lesson would have missed. You covered that. And then that externals does not matter so much as internal. So in this is with regard to what would have happened if everything would have gone well. Uh,
Right. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
and then coming back to this question, why did Sati immolate herself? I guess there was a component of insult, component of humiliation, leading to frustration of some sort.
Yes. Yes.
I may be wrong. Yeah.
Maybe Nupur has raised her hand. Please, Nupur.
Hi Krishna. Ruchi, based on what I read while covering that chapter, was that uh, it is suggested to cut the tongue of the blasphemer or kill them or run away. So she, since Daksha had offended Lord Shiva and he was her own father, she wouldn't have killed him or cut his tongue. So one reason that was provided in the chapter was that she was helpless, and external reason was that she was helpless, and because since he was her father, she wouldn't have cut his tongue or killed him. She just decided to leave her own body. That
Exactly.
was, yeah,
Exactly. That's a
that
that's
was.
a really good. So that's exactly what the chapter says, which is that she cannot, since he is his father, she cannot physically harm him or she cannot curse him. So the only thing that she can do is she can destroy the thing that he has given her, and he has given her her body, and so that's a way for her to retaliate against her father. So so I heard this also, and I thought this was also very powerful as to it's something. It's something that's very difficult for us to understand. This chapter I always struggle with about Sati immolating herself. Um, but there is this rationale that that she wanted to. This was a way for her to retaliate against her own father. So and so wonderful. So so those are a few discussion topics just to get you all into the mood of the chapter. And this chapter by itself, it's 61 verses. Verse 1 to 12 is when, this, you can read this, which is when Lord Shiva revives Daksha's life, Daksha's prayer to Lord Shiva, which we will learn more about, Daksha starting the sacrifice and Lord Vishnu arriving, the demigods and all the others, the Brahmanas, demigods, Shiva, the wives of the Brahmanas, the everybody offers their prayers to Lord Vishnu. So that's the biggest section in between. We won't go through it in that much detail, but we'll try to cover a little bit. And then the instructions from the Lord uh, to Daksha towards the end, and then Daksha's completion of the sacrifice and Sati's future birth. This is the way the chapter is divided. And so in the first section, which is verse 1 to 12, the Lord actually revives Daksha. And as we read, he gives Daksha a goat's head. And after that, Lord Shiva says that he didn't mind the offenses that was done by Daksha and the other demigods. And he says that the demigods are childish and they are less intelligent. He also says that I don't take a serious view of their offenses. I have punished them only in order to right them. So Lord Shiva actually uses the word balanam in here, which is that they're like children. So when a child commits an offense, we don't take it that seriously. So that's how Lord Shiva took Daksha to be. And he also says that Daksha and his associates, they acted because of the influence of Maya, Deva Maya. So Srila Prabhupada actually writes here that there are two types of punishment. One in which a conqueror imposes on an enemy, and the other is like a father imposes on his son. Lord Shiva here did not become angry like one gets angry with an enemy. Lord Shiva is always easily pleased, and he's always satisfied. He wishes the welfare for all. So even when he gives a punishment, like he gave it to Daksha, where his head got chopped and he finally got a goat's head, he wants what is best for Daksha. And the purpose of his punishment is the elevation of Daksha. So not only Daksha, he actually gives punishment to a lot of others, like Bhrigu and many others who are there in the assembly. All those who wronged him. But he actually he gave them a punishment, uh, but he also gave them a way um, to get out of the punishment. So we can learn about forgiveness um, from Lord Shiva here. To learn to forgive is actually very critical, and that's one of the key lessons in this chapter. Not being able to forgive keeps our emotional wounds alive through resentment, rumination, and anger. So, research actually shows, current scientific research shows that, when you're not able to forgive, that can trigger stress responses in the body. And it also disrupts cortisol regulation and raises blood pressure. And so forgiveness has the capability to reduce all that. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing harmful behavior. So we have to very carefully draw a line there. But it's just a conscious decision that we make, that we try to make for our own well-being. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is very hope-giving in that regard because it has a lot of examples of people, slipping, failing, getting, being forgiven, recovering, and becoming good devotees. So, having said that, maybe you can, maybe we can discuss what are other examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam of people failing or making mistakes. Um, Anything that you can think of, any other examples that you can think of? Because the Bhagavatam is full of these. In fact, the Bhagavatam, I heard another famous speaker say this, is full of stories of failures and recovery from failures.
Ajamil?
Ajamil, good one.
Ambarish Maharaj
Ambrish
and
Maharaj.
Durvasa Muni.
Who else you said?
Durvasa Muni.
Durvasa Muni, of course, yeah.
Indra.
Indra many
Indra,
times.
there are many.
Indra
Yeah.
few times, right?
And Brahma Vimohan and Leela.
Yeah, Lord Brahma, yes.
I don't know, Gajendra.
Gajendra in his previous life, yes. In his
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
even Nalakuvera and Manigriva, the two.
Nalakavera Manigriva, yes.
Arjuna.
Arjuna.
Kaliyan.
Kalia, okay. Daksha, of course. We are seeing Daksha right now. Any others that you can think of?
Parikshit Maharaj.
Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't fail.
But he put a snake on Rishi's.
Oh yes, of course, of course, of course. Yes, yes, you're right, you're right, you're right. Parikshit Maharaj, yes. Yeah, that's the whole reason why we got the Bhagavatam. Yes.
Exactly.
And his recovery helped all of us, is helping all of us. Of course, yes. Any others? But good. This was a very good list. Yeah, I put a list there together. I think you covered all of them. Saubiri Muni, Jaya Vijaya, and a couple of others. King Chitraketu. Um, so just moving ahead, you know, so we are talking about punishment here because Lord Shiva gave this punishment of uh, of a goat's head for Daksha. Um, so the punishment should make the punished more sincere, and it should make them repentant. That's the definition of a good punishment. So in the next few verses, actually, there are different types of punishments that are given, but we'll focus on Daksha's goat head because that's a really deep one. So even though Daksha's head was transplanted, if you think about it, his brain, because the brain, we believe that the brain is in the head, the brain was replaced. But does our identity lie inside our brain? So what Srila Prabhupada says is that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. So the brain is actually only an instrument which is used by the consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada says it doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if one simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. So he gives a nice mission statement for Krishna consciousness after that. The whole moment of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. So punishments were given to the folks who offended Lord Shiva. Now, if everything was restored, now they were all not given, Daksha wasn't given his original head. He was given a goat's head. And similarly, you saw other people, like they had to see through somebody else, or one of them couldn't chew anything. He had to chew through somebody else. Some of the Brahmanas had to use the arms of the Ashwini Kumaras. So we saw these different punishments. The reason that some punishments were given so that they realize their mistake, but also the reason the punishments were given, and then they were also given a way to escape, not escape the punishments, but they were relieved from their miseries, because the purpose of a punishment is to motivate the person who's getting the punishment. So that's why a good punishment should be given out by somebody who's a senior authority, and only with a lot of deliberation. And giving out the right punishment, I heard this in a class, is actually a Vaishnava Lakshan. That means it's an indication of a good Vaishnava. It means that a Vaishnava does not punish just because they have to punish. A Vaishnava punishes with the goal of elevating the person who is getting punished. So let me ask you another question here. Did Srila Prabhupada ever punish his disciples? Any thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So when the disciple said that Prabhupada is equal to God, that time Srila Prabhupada really punished them, saying that the Guru should not be considered as God, should be worshipped
Yes,
as God, but not equal to God. So he
yes, yes,
actually
yes.
punished them by banning them from ISKCON.
That's right. That's right. I think there are four of them or so. They considered Srila Prabhupada to be Krishna, and then they were spreading this amongst all the devotees that Srila Prabhupada is Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada took offense to that, and then he banned them once he found out about this. And then he later they apologized, and I think they believe they came back. The other way he punished his, you know, this is his Leela. He gave them very difficult assignments. He would sometimes send them to Australia or faraway countries. That was his way of punishing them. But all that, transcendentally also led to their growth. Um, Krishna, for example, Krishna also, when Indra committed the offense, as like Anand Prabhu was saying during Govardhan Leela, Krishna didn't take away Indra's service. He let him continue his service. And even Lord Brahma, after Brahma Vimohan Leela, Lord Brahma continued with his service. So going back to this chapter, everybody was satisfied with all the punishments given. Lord Brahma was very appreciative. Um, then after that, Lord Bhrigu invited Lord Shiva to the sacrificial arena, and he asked him to help them continue with the yajna. So that's when Lord Shiva got the goat's head to Daksha's body, and then Daksha got up from there, and then Daksha offered his prayers to Lord Shiva, and his prayers were very, very sincere. And so this, Srila Prabhupada says, is the effect of devotional service. So Daksha's heart was actually impure before, and that's why he slandered Lord Shiva. And now that he's been punished and he's seen Lord Shiva, his heart is cleansed. So Prabhupada writes, the arrangement by the Lord is so nice that if a person is turned to Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in his next life he will be a great devotee of Krishna, even if he is offered a different type of body. So that's the assurance that Srila Prabhupada gives us. That and we saw this here. Daksha's heart was transformed after he offered his prayers. Daksha actually nicely admits his mistake. So this is an important part of offering prayers too, is to offer honestly and sincerely the mistakes that we have committed. So Daksha clearly says that I have insulted you, O Lord Shiva, please forgive me. And Daksha starts the sacrifice after he sanctifies the sacrificial arena. And after, as the sacrifice progresses, Lord Vishnu appears, and Lord Vishnu is sitting on the Garuda, and there is illumination in all directions. So let's do this. Even though we are short of time, let's close our eyes, put our hands in Namaste, and I'll just try to read the description of Lord Vishnu here. His complexion was blackish, his garment yellow like gold, and his helmet as dazzling as the sun. His hair was bluish, the color of black bees. His eyes were decorated with earrings. His 8 hands held a conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, arrow, bow, shield, and sword. And they were decorated with gold ornaments such as bangles and bracelets. His whole body resembled a blossoming tree, beautifully decorated with various kinds of flowers. Lord Vishnu looked extraordinarily beautiful because the goddess of fortune and a garland were situated on his chest. His face was beautifully decorated with a smiling attitude, which can captivate the entire world, especially the devotees. Fans of white hair appeared on both sides of the Lord like white swans, and the white canopy overhead looked like the moon. You can open your eyes, devotees. So the Lord appeared, and his effulgence surpassed everybody else who was there. So here, Srila Prabhupada actually quotes a verse from Canto 12, chapter 13, verse 1, and I'll bring the verse in front of you. The verse goes, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyai Vedai Sangapada Karmo Panishadair Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyanavastyasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yogino Yasyantam Navidu Sura Gana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So this particular verse is where this comes in the 12th canto, and Suta Muni says that Lord Vishnu is worshipable by all demigods, all the Gandharvas, and even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. So after this, all the prayers happen, verses 26 to 47 are all the prayers by everybody who's assembled there. And after as the yajna continues, Lord Vishnu is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. Lord Vishnu is very satisfied. And then Lord Vishnu actually gives instructions to Daksha. And he says in verse 50 that Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I are the supreme cause of the material manifestation. I am the super soul, the self-sufficient witness. But impersonally, there is no difference between Brahma, Lord Shiva, and me. We learned this last week in Sankirtan Acharya Prabhu's talk. And so, he continues this by saying that I'm the original personality of Godhead, but in order to create, maintain, and highlight this cosmic manifestation, I act through my material energy, and according to the different grades of activity, my representations are differently named. One who is not in proper knowledge thinks that demigods like Brahma and Shiva are independent, or he even thinks that living entities are independent. So, this way, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport for verse 50, which we just saw here, that Lord Brahma was born out of the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva was born out of the body of Brahma. Lord Vishnu is therefore the supreme cause. In the Vedas also, it is stated that in the beginning there was only Vishnu, Narayana. There was no Brahma or Shiva. Similarly, Shankaracharya also confirms this by saying Narayana Paraha. Narayana or Lord Vishnu is the origin, and Brahma and Shiva are manifested after creation. Lord Vishnu is also Atmaswara, the super soul in everyone. Under his direction, everything is prompted from within. And so we know in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated, Tene Brahma Hrida Adikavaye. He first educated Lord Brahma from within. So after this, Maitreya concludes the chapter by saying that Dakshayani took birth in the kingdom of the Himalayas. And Maitreya also says that he's heard this story that we just heard today from Uddhava, who's a great devotee of Lord Krishna and a disciple of Brahaspati. So in summary, this is what we covered today. Some key takeaway points from this chapter is that the mission must be protected from ego and conflict. So we should always have our eyes on the mission. Forgiveness always restores harmony and service. Punishment can be used as an instrument, but it should be used only to elevate. Krishna consciousness is to purify consciousness. And even in our lives, when we make mistakes and we get punished for it, we should seek forgiveness and always look for ways to elevate ourselves. So that's all I had, dear devotees. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Hare Krishna. So, just one quick thing, Prabhu. Nitya Mataji wrote on the chat, can we call it a consequence instead of punishment? So, Mataji, was this in relation to Prabhupada? There was a discussion about Prabhupada punishing his disciples.
Yes, no, I was thinking, we as devotees, we take everything as a mercy of the Lord, instead of thinking of it as a punishment. Punishment usually causes resentment, there's a negative connotation to it. Thinking of it as a consequence or as even a blessing or a mercy normally puts it in the right attitude in the heads. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also it is an NVC way of saying it.
Got it.
Yes. And I think Srila Prabhupada uses the word punishment, over and over in the purport. So and then he also talks about the two types of punishment. The type of punishment that a conqueror imposes on an enemy, and the one that a father imposes on a son. I completely agree with your point that the word punishment has a different connotation, and also the words over time, the usage of words change and the connotation behind the words also change. So maybe when Prabhupada wrote this, maybe that wasn't there.
Yeah, no, and as you mentioned, Prabhu, like two types of punishment, right? In the first case, punishment by a conqueror to the conquered, that is based on a desire to exercise your power over the conquered. Whereas when a son is punished by the father, there is a sincere intention of reformation on the on the side of the father, in the sense that the father really wants the child to improve, the child to reform. So definitely, I guess Prabhupada, whenever he may have punished, like we saw the example of that Gaur Kumar Prabhu also mentioned, Prabhupada expelling few devotees because they were proclaiming that Prabhupada is Krishna. That is like from the perspective of reformation, because he later again took them back also. So yeah. But apart from these, I don't know, like Prabhupada, whether he like punished in the true sense of the word, in the sense like, like the example that you mentioned where Prabhupada sent somebody to a very difficult place to preach, that even in that there is an opportunity, in the sense that if the devotee really takes it up and that would please Prabhupada a lot. That thing is there, but in case of like expelling someone, for example, there is no way other than to just fall at the feet of Prabhupada and beg forgiveness. So I'm just thinking if there were any other examples like that. Nothing comes to my mind, but yeah, just goes to show Prabhupada's compassion actually.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Gaur Kumar Prabhu, please.
Yeah, I think Manan Prabhu wanted to say something.
Yes, sorry. Manan.
So in response to what Jagannath Papa was saying, somebody recently shared a very nice Prabhupada pastime with me. Once a devotee, I think it was in Mumbai, Prabhupada was in the Juhud thing. There was some devotee, some disciple who was smoking ganja. And news came to Prabhupada, the disciple, this devotee is smoking ganja. And Prabhupada said, tell him that if he does not give this up, I will reject him as my disciple. And the disciple who was with Prabhupada said, Prabhupada, really you will reject him as a disciple? Prabhupada says, no, but if I say it like this, then he'll be able to overcome the difficulty. I cannot reject anyone.
Nice.
Beautiful, Prabhu.
Nice.
Yeah. So that reminded me that we should hiss but not bite. Like a snake, we should hiss so that they become scared, but we should never bite. So, anyway, first of all, Krishnan Prabhu, this was amazing. You kept our attention throughout the presentation with the slides and the points and the questions and the summaries, and everything was spot on. I really wanted to appreciate you for taking the time to prepare and listening to these classes and giving us a wonderful conclusion to this pastime. With regards to forgiveness, I know it's a very, very big topic, and I don't want to open a can of worms, but forgiveness, typically what we think as devotees is that, oh, if I forgive somebody, I'm going to let them off the hook. So I was listening to a class recently, I forget by whom, where they clearly mentioned that that should not be our mood when we forgive somebody. Okay, I'm going to let them off the hook. So that is also based on our own ego, where we are thinking of ourselves. But forgiveness should be also a very compassionate um, attitude from our side, where we actually think of uplifting the other person also, and not in a very arrogant way of I'm going to let them off the hook. So just wanted to bring that out, and I wanted to hear your comments on that.
Sorry, you muted, Prabhu, midway through your sentence.
Oh, my internet is unstable. So I was just saying that forgiveness should not be like letting the person off the hook.
Hmm.
So yeah, just wanted to hear the comments on that.
So one example comes to my mind about this, Prabhu. Vidura. So Vidura was very badly insulted by Dhritarashtra, and then to the extent that I think Dhritarashtra chased him out of the kingdom. This was much before. This was before the last
Yeah.
time when Duryodhan really insulted, and then Vidura left for good. This was before that actually. Dhritarashtra insulted Vidura very badly, and after which Vidura left. And then I guess Dhritarashtra's minister said that no, you made a mistake. You should not actually be doing this. Then Dhritarashtra called back Vidura. But then Vidura, this time, he forgave Dhritarashtra. He was there as his good advisor always. But then he did not forget the previous thing that Dhritarashtra did. So he always kept his ears open. He always made sure that wrong advantage wasn't taken of him and things like that. So he forgave but did not forget. So this comes in an article by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu also, the same point of forgiveness but not forgetting it or not letting people off the hook. So and he mentions Vidura as an example. I'll send that article on the group if I find it.
I also wanted to thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, for the wonderful kirtan. I forgot to mention that. That tune is by Chaitanya Chandra Charan Das, I think. Is a Russian devotee and very senior devotee, and I always listen to this tune. I don't know if he's the only person who sings this, but but thank you for that tune.
Thank you. Yeah, I used to hear this tune many years ago. The Hare, the last Hare in the mantra, it is very low. So sometimes I can't take my voice that low. You must have heard when I was singing, but anyway, something to learn.
Yeah, very wonderful. I'll try to post it in the group. I have a favorite video of his, and very nice kirtan.
Hey, thank you. And yeah, thank you, Krishnan Prabhu. This was superb, amazing, and a very fitting end to the year for our Life of Devotion Wisdom Tuesday discussions. Very well researched and very engaging. So many questions you brought out, and devotees were participating very wholeheartedly, giving their inputs and everything. So, thank you. This is amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And then, of course, I know I'm not feeling very satisfied because there are so many prayers, and
Mm.
each of these prayers, they go in different directions. And there's a lot of, I was even the Subodhini book has some structure to, it's formed a structure for all these prayers. But I thought that will make it too complicated, and so I avoided many of the prayers.
Yeah.
But that can be done, at a later time. I think, it needs more detailed study.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The thing is, many of these chapters are very detailed, and as you said, one session may not do justice. Perhaps we could do a separate series for Tuesday classes just for on the prayers, like, prayers by, for example, Lord Brahma to Krishna, prayers by Lord Indra to Krishna. These are 10th canto, of course, but then we can have so many. Prayers of Gajendra can be one. So, like this, we can have a prayer series. But again, that is something that is open to discussion. We'll see how to go about it. Prayers can get very technical. That is one concern there, and not everyone may gel with technicality that much.
I,
Uh,
I
then
agree. I agree. I think they became. I think some of the prayers can get very technical. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway,
But thank you so much for the opportunity.
thank you, bro. Any other thoughts, dear devotees, or any announcements, Gaur Kumar Prabhu, before we close for today and meet directly next year?
No announcements, Prabhu. So I was just thinking that to take these wisdom discussions to the next level, we'll send out like a survey or something. I'll discuss with Jagannath Gopal Prabhu and send out like questions, feedback on how to make these Tuesday discussions take it to the next level. So please look out for that on the Life of Devotion group, and please take that survey and give us good feedback. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so wrapping up, dear devotees, Jakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, हिज ग्रेस कृष्णन प्रभु की जय.